Work-life balance for leaders and supervisors in human services is like Bigfoot riding a unicorn. It's fun to imagine, but no one's actually spotted it in the wild. And listen, I'm not here to sell you a fantasy. I'm not about to tell you that every manager or supervisor can clock out at 4:59 p.m. and spend the evening doing yoga on the beach. If you work in human services, you already know that the beach is actually just your living room floor and the yoga mat is covered in paperwork. Hello, difference maker, and welcome to IDD Leader, the podcast that's all about helping human service organizations retain and grow their frontline workforce using behavioral science. I'm your host, Nate Beers. Let's dive in. Can we be real for a moment? We're not always going to have a perfect balance. It's not possible. And we certainly don't want people that are watching the clock like it's a prison break countdown. But when the pendulum swings too far into the always on position, then we're literally building burnout into our leadership pipelines. And burnout, it doesn't just hurt people, it's also super expensive. It's disruptive. And spoiler alert, there's not enough wellness webinars in the world to fix it once it hits critical mass. It can get really ugly. So today, I want to show you how to actually protect your leadership team without babying them, using systems that make healthy workload possible, at least most of the time. Let's hit it. Well, where does it go wrong? Leading without boundaries, it's kind of like trying to use your phone at 3% battery. Yeah, it technically works, but you're just one Google search away from a total shutdown. And here's the thing, in so many human service organizations, always being on is treated like a badge of honor. You stayed up until midnight returning emails? Congrats, here's a gold star. You didn't take your PTO for 2 years? Whoa, what a trooper. Because apparently having boundaries is for people who hate their jobs. Yeah, that's unfortunate that is often the trend, particularly in human services, because it's compassion-driven work, right? I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen multiple people who were involved in people's lives, and they were in this field and actually in other fields too, but where they just poured their heart and soul into the work. I mean, they were all in. They were also all in kind of all the time. They gave it their absolute best, but the problem was they didn't pace themselves like it was a marathon. They were just treating it like it's a sprint. For any of us that ever ran cross country, which I never did, but I did have to run the track and gym class, we kind of remember what it feels like if you run too fast at the beginning, but then there's still 3 more or 4 more laps to go. Anyhow, individuals like this, or people like this, leaders like this, what I've seen is then their outlook starts to change over time. You just start to hear it in a little bit of the tone of voice at first, or there often is a little bit of this sense of resentment. Like they've given so much to this job, they expect it to give back to them a little bit more. Or when someone who works for them quits, they take it so personally. Or when an individual outcome happens for one of their clients that hurts, it feels so personal to them. And then over time, what happens is they go from a little bit of resentment to full-on burnout because they were burning the candle at both ends. They hadn't paced themselves appropriately. They probably were getting praise along the way for it, but it was hurting them. And when they leave, especially if they kind of crash and burn and really burn out, then there's this huge gap. It's very costly to replace leaders, especially the higher up that they are. And there's this major loss in continuity for all the individuals involved, staff and clients that are being served. So that's the kind of situation we want to avoid. Let me give you 5 fixes that actually work. All right, you can start using these today. Fix number one, model healthy boundaries from the top. Now, I'm hoping that one didn't hurt when I said it. Kind of makes me start to question, am I doing what I need to be doing on this? But listen, if you're the executive director or in any kind of really leadership role, and you're texting people at 9 o'clock, you're emailing them after midnight on a regular basis, you're checking in with your staff when you're on family vacation, guess what you're communicating to those who work under you? You're communicating that that's what's expected. that that's what it looks like to be a good leader. Even if you're saying things like, you don't have to do it this way, your actions are actually speaking very, very loudly. So when I say model healthy boundaries from the top, what I'm encouraging you to do is to go offline and to talk openly about when it's okay to be offline. Now, I recognize if this isn't already in place, then a prerequisite is going to be to create an on-call system where everyone's not on call all the time, and especially as a higher level leader, that you have other high level leaders that can cover at different times, so that when you have a true offline moment, that it stays offline, both for messages coming to you and for messages that you think of wanting to send out during that time. If you really must, you can always write it down, or you can delay send emails or whatever. But protect that time, because whatever team you're leading, at whatever level of leadership, you are setting the culture for the team that works for you. Okay, fix number 2. Implement actual off-duty protection, which I kind of already alluded to. In theory, everyone agrees that leaders deserve time to focus or unplug, but in practice, there's still often that certain someone who will swing by your office at 4:45 on a Friday with just a quick question. Not that I'm naming any names, Dwight, but seriously, we don't want to hear about your issues with Jim anymore. And no, HR never got back to us about your request to become assistant to the regional manager. Really? 4:45 on a Friday? Did it have to happen then? Here's what you can do. You can set sacred hours. I already said about setting up the on-call in a way that actually protects those who are not on call to not be on call. But you can also set sacred hours. You can have it where there's just no non-emergency meetings or emails after 2:00 on a Friday, for example. You could have don't set up scheduled back-to-back meetings where there's no breathing room, because healthy leaders should be able to finish their sentence before the next fire drill. Fix number 3. I've already kind of alluded to this one as well. They're all interrelated. Have you noticed? Normalize PTO and actually cover for people. If your managers have to pre-write 2 weeks of coverage just to take 3 days off, in other words, if they have to work 3 times harder leading up to their time off and 3 times harder when they first come back, then it's kind of like punishing them for using their PTO. So you want to think through these systems and talk about it. Have ongoing conversations with your leaders about it. But you want to set it up where they actually can use it and it's a benefit to them. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen this situation, but there are situations where managers haven't taken a full week off in multiple years. And then maybe finally one brave manager does it. And guess what? The world didn't end. The program didn't collapse. The building didn't burn down. And instead, they actually came back, that manager came back and re-energized, full of better ideas than they had in months. Time away is a value add to you, to everyone on your team for their time away, but it's also a value add to the team because people come back more re-energized. So make it as easy and as guilt-free as possible for people to actually use their PTO and to disconnect. You just gotta love that away message, the auto reply on the email. And listen, side note story here. One time I had set that up. It was a big family event, like not an ongoing regular every year even kind of event. It was like an especially big family event I was at. And then someone that normally texts me that doesn't email me, they're not real involved. I don't talk to them often, but when we do talk, it's through text. And they have a kind of a lot of clout in the role that they're in. They started texting me when I was on this very important family event. And so you know what I did? I had to wrestle with it for a few minutes, but I wrote them one reply and said, "I'm so sorry. I don't have an away message for texting, but I'm on at a family event, and I will get back to you when it's over." They wrote another couple times. I felt the pressure. I mean, I know what it's like to be wrestling with these decisions, but I responded when I came back. I responded, got them what they needed. The world did not fall apart, and they've respected me more every time since then. And that's what happens. People will start to respect you more and your time off more when you have good boundaries on it. Okay. and when you protect it for your whole workforce, obviously not just for you. Fix number 4. We haven't really talked about this one yet. Prioritize workload alignment. So are you expecting your supervisors or your managers to do 17 different jobs or just 2 to 3 really well? Here's an exercise you can try. Audit your manager's weekly duties and then try to divide it where just a short list, very few things get into the mission critical. And then the rest could be, it might not be unnecessary work, but it might not necessarily always have to fall on their plate, or certainly it shouldn't be super urgent or super crisis all the time. You want to strip things down and realign based on priorities. In doing so, what you can do, what's the goal here is to make sure that your leaders aren't set up to have to deal with the urgent rather than the important. You want the important to win out. Like at least 90% of the time, the important should win out over the urgent. And if it's not, then you can look at your systems and your priorities and the alignment issues here so that the so that the importance getting done first and most. And then, the urgent things, of course, they have to get done too. Focused managers equal better leaders. All right, fix number 5. This is the last one. Build in micro recoveries. While not everyone can take a sabbatical, although it'd be really nice if everybody could, every leader can do these things. They could set a daily recharge of a 10-minute walk, or they could set a no meetings Monday once a month. They can have some flex time after a crisis-heavy week, because there are going to be some weeks where it's not in balance and you're dealing with multiple crises. It happens. Ultimately, these kinds of small, consistent breaks beat giant, unsustainable vacations every time. Why? Because 40 weeks after you had that once-a-year vacation, it's not going to still be re-energizing you. But when it's built into all of these daily, weekly habits, then it is going to keep people energized, yourself and your team. Well, now let's just talk for a minute about changing the culture. Changing culture often can feel like steering the Titanic if the Titanic was also being steered by 47 very different people all holding different maps. Right? It's not just the leader that sets the culture, it's the whole team. But the good news is, and you know this, but it can be done. This is my encouragement. It can be done. Yes, it's slow. Yes, it's messy, but it's worth it. A couple practical things about how to help shift the culture. You want to celebrate the tiny wins. For example, hey, we didn't schedule a lunch meeting this week. You actually got to eat your lunch in a relaxed manner. That's progress. Another simple thing to do, talk about resiliency as a core leadership skill. It's not just something to bring up after burnout is already hitting people, but proactively talk about it. Well, I always like to leave you with one practical next step. I want you to pick one small system or change that you can implement this month to protect leadership balance. It could be the sacred hours. It could be improving PTO coverage. At a bare minimum, it could even just be talking about it at the next leadership meeting and starting to show a value for it. Because work-life balance does not have to be a fantasy. You don't need perfection, but you need systems that make balance possible more often than not. Because leaders who feel respected and leaders who feel protected, those are the leaders who stay. And they stay energized and they stay engaged. Yeah, they deserve it, and so do you. So let's make work-life balance a lot less like a unicorn and more like a golden retriever. It's loyal, messy, a little slobbery, but it's very, very real. Not just a pipe dream. Listen, if you've resonated with this episode, I would love to help you take your turnover fixes to a whole new level. I've created the Turnover Fix Playbook. It really targets supervisors because they are the linchpin of staff retention and staff turnover. And it provides 4 simple habits that they can implement right away to help retain more staff. You can download it at iddleader.com/supervisor, and it's completely free, of course. Also, if you have appreciated this episode, I would appreciate it if you would consider rating or reviewing it on Apple or Spotify. That just helps people to find it more easily than not having as many reviews. So that would just be super helpful to me. All right, listen, you're doing great. But until next time, difference maker, here's to you. Keep up the amazing work.